This is my house. Get out. That's what my brother-in-law shouted at my father, right in the middle of the $425,000 beach house I'd given my parents for their 50th anniversary. My mother's face was ashen, her tears soaking the dish towel she clutched like a surrender flag. My father just stared at the floor, shoulders shaking. My sister laughed, proud, as if she thrived on the chaos. I stood in the doorway, cake in hand, keys cold in my palm. I didn't yell. I didn't move. I just smiled once and said something that made the laughter stop dead. They thought they'd taken everything. They had no clue what I'd held back. Just 2 weeks before, everything felt lighter. The air was full of salt and fresh paint when I first unlocked the door to that little blue house by the sea. I'd spent months searching for it, something simple, peaceful, with sunlight that drifted across the walls. When I asked my parents to take a weekend drive, my mom assumed it was for dinner. My dad packed his fishing rod. Neither suspected a thing. They both cried before they even stepped inside. Dad ran his hand along the banister like it was holy. Mom opened every cabinet, whispering, "It smells like lemons." I'd saved for years, made the final payment on a night when the numbers on my laptop blurred from exhaustion. I wanted them to have something that couldn't be taken away. A place where the air didn't reek of debt. Growing up, I learned what fear tasted like. I remember Mom crying over overdue rent, Dad working double shifts at the plant. I was 10 when I learned to say it'll be fine, even when it wasn't. I paid Olivia's bills later the same way I used to fix our broken chairs, quietly, efficiently, as if it was my job. Every transfer, every favor, every rescue felt like control. But it wasn't. It was just enabling chaos, disguised as love. So, when I handed my parents the keys, I thought maybe I'd finally fix something for good. "It's yours," I told them. "All of it." Dad tried to speak, but his voice cracked. Mom kept wiping tears, laughing and crying at once. We sat on the deck, the sky melting into the ocean. For the first time in years, I saw them relax. They looked like people who could finally breathe. Before I left, I tucked a note in the kitchen drawer. Just a single line on plain paper, for slow mornings and loud laughter. Then I drove back to the city for a product launch, thinking they were safe, that peace had finally found a home. But peace never lasts long in families like ours. 3 days later, Olivia called my mom. By the 5th day, my phone buzzed with a photo of that same deck, new caption, "Home Sweet Home." Her account, her grin, her kids in my father's chair. I should have known the silence that followed wasn't gratitude. It was the calm before the storm. When I pulled up that Saturday, the first thing I saw was an SUV parked crooked on the grass. Cartoons blared from inside. The front door was wide open, curtains fluttering in the breeze. My chest tightened before I even got out. Mom was in the kitchen, hunched over, clutching a towel, eyes red. Dad sat by the window, fingers trembling on the armrest. The air smelled like grease and beer. Boxes were everywhere, none of them his. Then I heard a man's voice from the living room. "Upstairs for us," he said. "The kids want the ocean view." I turned the corner and saw Mark, barefoot, beer in hand, standing in front of my father like he owned the place. Olivia sprawled on the couch, scrolling her phone, flip-flops half off. Mom whispered my name, half warning, half prayer. Mark didn't even look at me. "Family home, right?" he said. "We're just settling in." Olivia laughed. "Relax, Bella. Dad's bad with stares. We'll handle things here." The words "family home" hit me like a punch. I turned to my mother. "You told them." She shook her head, eyes glassy. "They found out from a photo your dad posted." I looked at Dad. He couldn't meet my gaze. "She said it was fine," he muttered. The walls felt like they were closing in. Olivia's kids ran past, dragging sand across the new floors. Mark raised his voice over the TV. "Peak season's coming. We could rent this place easy. I already made a listing. Gotta make the house pay for itself." I stared at him. "You what?" He grinned. "Don't be weird, Bella. It's family money. Family house." Mom tried to speak, her voice paper thin. "They just need a few days." A few days. That was always the phrase before it turned into years. I wanted to scream, to throw them out, to remind everyone whose name was on the deed. but all I did was set the cake on the counter. I'll be back tomorrow, I said quietly. Olivia rolled her eyes. You're always dramatic. Mark waved his beer. Bring more of that sparkling cider next time. It's good. Outside, the ocean was so bright it hurt to look at. I got in my car and gripped the wheel until my knuckles went white. They thought I was leaving to cool off. They didn't know I was going home to plan their eviction. Legally, quietly, permanently. I parked 2 blocks away and walked back, so I wouldn't storm in. Anger makes mistakes. Precision doesn't. My hands were steady as I unlocked my phone and opened the folders I'd built for emergencies. Payments, HOA rules, screenshots, the trust paperwork I'd had my lawyer draft. Each file felt like a weight I could finally set down. That night, I spread everything out on my desk and read it like a surgeon. The deed was in a trust. My parents as lifetime beneficiaries, clear language giving them exclusive occupancy. The listing Mark or Olivia had posted used my photos, my descriptions. Worst of all, the payout went to Mark's account. In a group chat screenshot, someone had typed, "We'll get him on board if mom cries." My stomach turned, but my hands didn't shake. I highlighted, printed, labeled. I called the HOA before midnight. The woman on the phone was brisk until I read the clause aloud. No short-term rentals allowed. She went quiet, then confirmed violations could be enforced, fines issued, listings removed. I asked for an email confirming the rule. She sent it right away. Proof. I booked a locksmith for the morning and left a note. Victor, change the outer lock, reprogram the keypad. Small actions that felt huge when they lined up. I forwarded the listing screenshot to the rental platform's trust and safety team, attached the deed and trust. I wrote a short email to the neighbor list I'd found in the closing packet. Hello, neighbors. There may be unauthorized activity at 24 Seaview. I'm the trustee and will ensure compliance. I hit send and watched the blue dot move across my screen. I barely slept. When I finally dozed, my mind ran through every scenario. What if Mark refused to leave? What if Olivia posted a video of Dad crying? What if they tried to file a quick claim? I pictured their faces when their leverage vanished, a small, private satisfaction that felt justified. At dawn, I drove back with a manila folder in my lap. It held 5 things: the deed, the trust, a screenshot of the Airbnb listing, the group chat where Olivia admitted the plan, and the HOA clause. The folder smelled like printer ink and coffee, which steadied me more than any pep talk. The house looked the same as before: blue paint, white deck, palm shadows. Inside, a cartoon theme played. A child giggled, beer cans clinked. Mark waved at me like I was an intruder. Olivia's laugh cut through the air. My mother's face folded in on itself. I didn't raise my voice. I set the folder on the coffee table and arranged the pages like a surgeon setting tools. "Everyone to the living room," I said, calm and precise. The kids paused. The dog cocked its head. Mark's grin faded like he'd hit glass. "This is my house. Get out." Mark's voice echoed as I stood by the mantel, documents in hand. My father's shoulders slumped. My mother's face was small and wet. Olivia smirked, legs crossed, phone in hand. I laid the first page on the table. "Deed," I said, tapping the header. "Recorded last week. Property owned by the trust one set up. Lifetime beneficiaries, Sam and Ruth. They have exclusive occupancy." Mark scoffed. Big words. "It's family property." "Wrong," I said. "It's theirs. Not yours, not mine." I set the next document down. Trust instrument. I'm trustee. My legal duty is to remove anyone who disrupts their peace. Olivia's voice turned sweet. "We're helping. Dad can't do stairs. We're just settling in." I dropped the next page, a screenshot. "Your listing. Entire home. Oceanfront. Booked weekends through August. Payout to Mark's account." Mom gasped. Dad closed his eyes. Mark's jaw clenched. "You're not here half the time. It's only fair." "This isn't fairness," I said. "It's theft dressed as family." Olivia's tone sharpened. "Don't be dramatic." I flipped the next page, text messages. Her line, "We'll get her to cave if mom cries." Mark's reply, "Peak season, baby." Free money. Silence cracked the room. Mom stared at the paper like it might explode. I placed the last page. HOA rules. No short-term rentals. Violation already reported. The TV went silent. Even the air stopped moving. Mark leaned in, beer in hand. Or what? You'll call the cops on your own family? Or I'll do my job as trustee, I said. I set my phone on the table, screen up. Here's the draft email to the HOA board. Here's one to the county recorder. Another to the rental platform. And this, I pointed to the open text thread, is Victor the locksmith parked outside. A car door shut outside, crisp and calm. Olivia paled. You wouldn't dare. Mom looked at me, trembling. Bella, do what you need to do. Permission. After years of excuses, she'd finally given it. Mark puffed up. You think paper scares me? No, I said. Reality does. He lunged for the documents. I moved them aside, never breaking eye contact. Don't touch my work, he sneered. Your work is money. My work is protecting them. Olivia's voice cracked. You're humiliating us. You did that when you posted Home Sweet Home from someone else's kitchen. I took a slow breath. Here's what happens next. You'll pack, delete the listing, refund every booking, apologize, and leave your keys. Olivia laughed. Too high. Or what? You'll throw us out. Or Victor changes the locks in 5 minutes, I said. And you can film your tantrum in the driveway. The doorbell rang. The dog barked. That's him, I said. Mark turned. Don't touch that lock. Victor stepped in, tool bag on his shoulder. Afternoon. You must be Bella. I nodded, handed him a paper. Authorization letter. Trustee's signature. He smiled and got to work. Mark pointed at my father. Old man, tell her to stop. Dad's voice cracked, but it held. This is our house. We're staying. Mom's hand slid into his. For once, she didn't apologize. Mark sputtered. You'll regret this, Bella. I regret enabling you for a decade, I said. This is correction, not cruelty. Olivia's kids had stopped, wide-eyed and still. Even the dog sat down. Keys, I said, holding out my hand. Mark slapped his on the table. Olivia tossed hers after a pause. Victor's drill word, clean and final. A few clicks later, he returned with the new keypad. Code's ready. Who gets it? I looked at Dad. You pick. He whispered 4 numbers, his wedding month and year. Victor entered them, nodded, and handed me the instructions. I placed them in a folder labeled Happy Things on the entry table. Olivia watched, lips trembling. You could have just talked to me. I have been, I said. You just mistook silence for permission. Mark crossed his arms. We'll see you in court. You won't, I said, because I'll see you first. He glared. You think you're clever? No, I said. Just prepared. Outside, Victor packed up his tools. All done, he said softly. Old keys won't work anymore. Thank you, I replied. Mom sank into a chair, shaking. I didn't want to choose sides, she whispered. You didn't, I said. You stopped pretending there weren't any. She nodded. Dad's hand rested on hers, steady now. The air changed. The cartoon flicked off. Wind whispered through the open deck door. For the first time since I'd walked in, the house exhaled. Mark and Olivia carried boxes down the stairs, muttering threats about lawyers and loyalty. On the porch, Olivia paused, eyes glossy. You think this ends here? No, I said. It ends when you stop taking what was never yours. She blinked, turned, and walked to the SUV. The dog jumped in after the kids. Mark slammed the door and peeled out, tires scraping gravel. When the sound faded, the house seemed to settle. The ocean breathed. The windows sang softly in the wind, remembering what calm sounded like. Mom poured tea, her hand steadier. I didn't want you to see this side of her, she said. I needed to, I answered. Boundaries don't exist until someone crosses them. Dad looked at me over his cup. I should have said something sooner. You did, I said. You called me. That was enough. I opened my laptop, forwarded the HOA confirmation, and canceled the illegal bookings myself. Each guest got a short note. Listing removed by owner. Refund issued. I typed a neighbor letter. You may have seen extra cars. Confusion resolved. No rentals moving forward. When I finished, I felt lighter. Not triumphant, just clean. Mom sliced the cake I'd brought. the one that waited through the whole confrontation. She laughed at the absurdity, then handed me a plate. We ate quietly. The icing was lemon and sugar, sharp and sweet. My phone buzzed, a notification from the platform confirming the listing's removal, then one from the HOA acknowledging compliance. The last message was from Olivia. You made Mom cry. I deleted it without opening. Dad looked out at the water, his profile soft against the glass. It's finally quiet, he said. I nodded. That's how love should sound. He smiled faintly. We'll get used to that. As the sky faded to gold, I slipped the documents back into the folder labeled Boring Armor. Because boring, I'd learned, is the opposite of chaos. And that's how peace stays. Outside, the waves rolled in, steady and slow. Inside, my parents breathed in sync with them, safe in the home I'd built, protected by boundaries that finally held. The next morning, sunlight poured through the windows, gentle and warm. The house smelled like toast and sea air. My father sat on the deck with his coffee, reading the paper he hadn't touched in years. My mother hummed as she watered the plants I'd brought. For the first time in a long time, peace didn't feel fragile. It felt earned. Online, the storm faded. Olivia's posts about betrayal and greedy siblings lost steam. The platform banned her account. The HOA sent her a warning. When she texted demanding emotional damages, I didn't reply. Weeks passed. Mom sent me a photo of her feet on the deck rail, pink toenails shining in the sun. Dad called to say he'd finally slept through the night. That was all I needed. One evening, my niece me a message, Grandma looks happy there. I replied, come visit with her permission. No bookings, just pancakes. Sometimes victory isn't loud. It's the quiet after the storm. The sound of locks clicking, of love staying exactly where it belongs. A month later, I drove back to the coast. The house glowed in the evening light, calm and alive again. Through the window, I saw my father reading, glasses slipping down his nose. My mother sat beside him, a puzzle spread across the table, her laughter mixing with the ocean breeze. I didn't go in. I just stood there, listening to the peace I'd fought for. Here's what I know now. Love isn't covering chaos with kindness. It isn't letting people steal under the excuse of family. Love is a house with working locks, paperwork that holds, and parents who can finally breathe. If you've ever had to protect someone you love from their own family, tell me in the comments. And if this story resonates, hit subscribe. There are more stories like this, of betrayal, boundaries, and the quiet revenge that finally sets you free.